What is up, good people? Christian Allaire here, Yogi C, coming to you from Huntington Beach, California. So today's little philosophy piece is going to be an introduction to the Bhagavad. Right here, I'm going to be using this textbook by this cat named Winthrop Sargent. And I'm just going to give a little introduction of what the story is about. And I mean, we're talking cursory stuff here. And this is probably designed more for people that have never even really heard of this book, let alone just the name, the Bhagavad, which means the Song of God. It can be possibly off-putting for some people. So I think I'll start by just acknowledging the topic of philosophy itself, which means the love of wisdom. And I remember back in my knuckle dragger days, in a previous video I talked about ignorance, meaning, ignorance is not stupid, but ignorance is simply not knowing, which pretty much describes me to a T. When Bill Clinton was being impeached for the Monica Lewinsky scandal, I remember watching that whole thing unfold, and that a reporter had basically asked Bill Clinton about how he's dealing with the pressure and all that. And he said, I'm reading philosophy, a lot of philosophy. And I remember my reaction was to scoff and to make fun of, and just to, I don't know if I thought it was elitist or what was manifesting in me, an embarrassment of not knowing. My own ignorance, was starting to bubble up. And putting aside the whole Lewinsky thing, what basically Clinton was saying that philosophy offers a way to grapple with difficulty or create structures or mindsets or a way of thinking about life and its difficulty. So for those that are not philosophically inclined, I would say that you should consider starting to dip your toe into it, because it is truly worth the effort. Moving into the text a little bit, and especially for the veterans out there or active duty people, I want to presence the fact that the Bhagavad is a story about war. It takes place on a battlefield in Kurukshetra, which is I believe, just outside of New Delhi in India, in modern day India. So this story, the Bhagavad, is the most translated work of literature ever. And it is studied and read by, I would say, billions of people. There are many people, so in the West here, it would be, I won't say it's like the Hindu Bible, it's been referred to that kind of like that, but it is, I just want to say that the stature of the story is significant, that its teachings are timeless, and the lessons that they teach just repeat over and over and over again. This book, this Bhagavad, the Song of God, is simply one piece out of a larger work called the Mahabharata. Of course, I can't pronounce Sanskrit very well, so give me a break here. But this larger Mahabharata is it's the equivalent of 6 times the length of the Iliad and Odyssey. It's an enormous work, and the BG, the Song of God, is just one piece of that works. So dipping our toe into this Winthrop Sargent book, I will just sketch out what we're talking about and refer to this book here. The BG tells the story of a great crisis. A crisis that is solved through the interaction between Arjuna, a Pandava warrior, hesitating before battle, and Krishna, his charioteer and teacher. So this can be read as a straight up history, but really its juice is in the fact that it's an allegory, it's a teachings, it's a telling of a story that continues to extract out wisdom. And in this scenario, Arjuna, well, first let me take a step back. It's two families, it's two cousins, sets of cousins, right? You have the Kauravas and the Pandavas. And one family has 100 sons, and those sons were born from this blind king named, I can't pronounce his name, Drashtastra, I think is how you pronounce his name, okay? That's one side of the family. Then you have the other side of the family, the Pandavas, and there are five cousins there, and one of them is Arjuna, right? So you have 100 and you have 12. In the larger Mahabharata, there is a card game, a craps game, so to speak. And in this craps game, the two cousins, 100 sons, and then the other 5, in a predetermined way, they say, okay, we're going to do this game, and the losers have to give up the kingdom, for 12 years. And so the 5 brothers, they play the game, 5 brothers lose, and they have to give up the kingdom for 12 years, of which they do. And then at the end of the 12 years, when the contract of giving up the kingdom comes due, the 100 brothers say, sorry, we're not giving it back up. So they broke the contract. And this is what sparked this enormous war. And in the Bhagavad Gita, at the start, Arjuna, the warrior, the prince, his charioteer is Sri Krishna. And Krishna is an avatar. He is the human form of God. And so this entire story, the BG, is a conversation that happens between Arjuna and Krishna about the war, but much, much more. So Arjuna at the beginning has a crisis. In this battle, you picture two armies, one here on the left, one here on the right, and they're about to slaughter each other. The thing is, though, that Arjuna is getting ready to slaughter his cousins that he grew up with. He's getting ready to slaughter his uncle, who he loves, and all of the teachers and all of that, and he just has this crisis, and he puts down his bow and arrow and says to Krishna, his guide, his charioteer, and says, I cannot do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and read out of the book a little bit, the explanation. Arjuna, the prince, the warrior, asks Krishna to place the chariot in the center of the field, and then sees arrayed before him his teachers, uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, and friends. The sight overwhelms him. It is clear that all will be slain, thinking that if all is destroyed, then kingdom and pleasure would be of no use. He throws down his bow, refusing to fight, his mind overcome with grief. In the chapters that follow, Krishna takes Arjuna on a philosophical journey, bringing into question Arjuna's attachment to both himself and others. The dialogue builds until Arjuna receives from Krishna a vision of totality that liberates him from his prior self-preoccupied identity, read ego. This experience prompts Arjuna to seek new answers from Krishna, answers that explain how to live with an understanding in which action becomes purposeful and liberating. So I will just, from here, just sketch out a couple of things that are dealt with within this works. And then maybe in follow-on videos, I can maybe just parse out and break down one of the pieces and then just talk about that. And again, for those at home that are tuning out, just your eyes are glazing over, you're making an enormous mistake. Especially in the age of coronavirus. This type of stuff gives you a way to think about the difficulties. What is happening with the coronavirus is just another shade of something that's been going on and repeats over and over and over again. So, one of the areas that it begins to deal with in conversation with Arjuna and Krishna, and remember Sri Krishna, the charioteer, is God incarnate. right? So God came down from Purusha, formed as Krishna, and now they're talking, okay? The purpose of life, yes, it deals with such grandiose things such as that. Happiness derived from the fulfillment of worldly desires does not last. As one grows old, one realizes that everything is transient. Wealth, possessions, health, and even life itself. Okay, that's pretty straightforward, especially for people that are aging. You start to really realize what is important, what is not. Then there is the crisis of self-identity. We have arms and legs. Our 5 sense organs of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and smell are superior to those limbs because they control a wider range of activity. So the book will start to parse out the differences between our physical appendages. It categorizes and places in hierarchy our sense organs versus the mind versus the intellect. Okay? It asks the question, who am I? The human soul contains a spark of the divine, the key attributes of which are indestructibility, indivisibility, and infinity. It talks about the human soul. The quest, the spiritual quest. When work becomes worship. Imprisoned in a cage, talks about the chains of desire and how it pulls us down into our lower order functions. The anatomy of human descent into the lower orders of being. Unselfish work, a mind purifier. Work without attachment, the way of meditation. Which is the better way? Intellect over mind, from knowledge to wisdom. Preparation for meditation, the power and the meaning of ways. Overcoming hurdles. So I will stop right there from reading from this. When you start to, it's very helpful to have a teacher or a commentary or a book to help guide the way. And again, I'll just end this video by saying that in the system of yoga, the corpus is enormous and it's hard to know where to start. So my recommendation would be start with the big kahunas. Start with the BG and start to read, and don't be off-put by Sanskrit terms. Go to the glossary, look in the back, and see what it means. And over time, things will start to unfold. One of the skills of yoga is learning to be uncomfortable. When you start to read Sanskrit, it's uncomfortable. One of the pieces of wisdom that I love to recall and remind myself is that you can read a book and not understand a lick of it, and that's fine. Pick it up and read it again and again. And each time, you know, a book that you understand right out of the gate, one reading you understand it all, is a book that I really don't want to get involved in, right? Because why? Easy is not necessarily good, okay? So I'll just stop right there and say namaste to my team out there, and I really look forward to continuing this conversation about the Bhagavad. So check in with me at christianallaireyoga.com, or on Instagram, I'm at yogic_photos. I also have another account at Christian Allaire. So would love to hear from you. Have a great day.